All right, let's call to order our Board of County Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, May 26th.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Present.
Commissioner Harris?
Present.
Chair Waymire?
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson?
Present.
Commissioner Dunn?
Present.
And stand for Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our invocation today will be led by Pastor Kim Wilcox of the North Baptist Church in Ottawa. Like you're muted. You can hear me? It looks like you're muted. Can you hear me, Pastor? There we are. All right, Pastor Wilcox, are you there? Say the Pledge of Allegiance again.
Not sure he's hearing you, Cole.
I don't think so.
Justin in his shed there. Yeah.
Okay, one more time. Pastor Wilcox, can you hear me? You want to pinch hit, Ian? Oh. Can you hear me, Pastor? All right, we're gonna have to move on. Do you want to say something, Ian? Okay.
Our Heavenly Father, we do thank you for today. We thank you for the spring warmth, the flowers blooming, and the trees budding, and everything turning green. We just thank you for this commission, for the work of the county. We thank you for the employees of the county as they have endured a hard year with COVID, and as things are starting to look up and we can look forward to better days ahead. We just pray for each of the items on the commission agenda this morning, that we'll consider each one with open eyes and open minds. And we just thank you for each one in this room today for what they present, what they represent as a part of Franklin County. And we just ask this all in your name. Amen.
All right, thank you. Nothing listed under correspondence. Any public comment? Any public comment, Jamie? No. Consent agenda today would include tax change orders in the amount of negative $262.72 and meeting minutes from May 19. Is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
All righty.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. First item of business would be consider purchasing a vehicle for the appraisers department. Morning, Jamie.
Morning, Commissioners. This purchase is replacing a tracker that we bought in 2004. So we got 17 years out of it. It's starting to show some issues whenever we take it in for its regular service and get the diagnostics run. So I feel that it's time. And I would expect that I will never have to come in front of you and ask for a replacement for this, because in 17 years I'll be 72. But I did go and I collected bids from Shawnee Mission Ford. I also contacted the state fleet contract out of Topeka, and the gentleman that I spoke with said that they had stopped for 2021. They had nothing available at this time. They wouldn't have anything until August. So that one was out. And then I also contacted Beckman down in Garnett, which provided me with a bid for an Equinox, which is a similar vehicle to the Escape that I'm asking for. And they also asked Bob Allen for a bid, which I didn't receive any response for. So I feel this will fit our needs. I specifically asked for all-wheel drive because although we don't need it all the time, when we need it, we absolutely have to have it. So I would appreciate your consideration on this measure.
So what are you adding besides, so you're adding the floor mats?
That was it.
And that was
'cause
it?
When we get dirty, we get dirty.
I know, yeah. Yeah, I know you keep your mud boots in the car,
Yes.
so, yeah.
Must have taken good care of the last one if it's lasted this long. So
Well, and we've got another one just like it, so we will push it as far as it'll go. And I've been very pleased with how my staff has treated these vehicles, and we take care of the annual, or the regular maintenance to keep them going.
I don't,
What's the age on the old?
They're both 2004s.
I was gonna say, I was here when we purchased them, and I never dreamed that they would last
yeah.
that long.
I don't think our
They were
mechanic did
inexpensive,
either.
small units that we just thought we'd get them by, and I'm amazed that they've lasted this long.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking to Jamie before the meeting, and the five of you rarely see him, and one of the reasons for that is he doesn't come with his hand out. And Jamie rarely asks me for anything. We've talked about this vehicle for a couple years now. We've gotten great use out of it, and he's been responsible in the way that he's tried to acquire bids. So this is a purchase that I fully recommend as well. So.
Would anyone like to make a motion to purchase the 2021 Ford Escape from Shawnee Mission Ford for $23,442?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes?
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. Since we don't see you here much, did you want to take a minute and give us an update on your
Well,
department?
My office right now is beginning 17% review, and that's where we go out in the county. We have 1/6 of the county that we look at every year, and they'll be going out and talking to homeowners that are home, or if not there, at least measuring the homes and making sure that all our records are correct, that there's not been any changes since we were there the last time, because believe it or not, sometimes it's 6 years before we see some places.
What part of the county are you in?
It is north of 68 Highway from Miami County to Osage County, and the north portion of Pomona, north of 68. And Ottawa gets treated a little differently because of the population and the parcel counts. So we had a southeastern mapping area that was done for that. So we're well on our way, and we will get that done and move on to the next process.
Just to put the full picture together, this vehicle that you purchased, this is what you and your staff would drive when you're doing 17%.
Oh,
review. So
absolutely,
you drive
yes.
all over the county, you look at properties, and you need vehicles to do that. I
Yes.
don't want to take for granted everyone's understanding of what your office does, because we hear from you so rarely, and so you
Kind of a hermit.
yeah. You had also talked about tablets and getting technology in the field, and certainly
Yes.
Dustin and I both gave you the thumbs up on that. Where are you at on that?
Well, I've contacted the company, and I have solid bids and as well as specifications for any software upgrades we might need to make, and we're well on our way.
And what will that allow you to do?
Well, our staff, instead of taking out a paper record, it will all be loaded on a tablet. As my processes work now, they go out and they make their notes and they make their changes on a piece of paper, and then they come back to the office, and usually on Fridays, and they spend all day on Fridays making the changes, taking those changes from the paper into the program and into our database. But what this will allow us to do is, we have a day's worth of work that we will upload onto their tablet. They will make the changes directly onto those records that are uploaded. When they come home at the end of the day, they mark the records that they have reviewed, they plug it in, it all uploads at that point. So we cut out that whole Friday process where they sit down and have to re-enter, and they have there's another chance for another fat finger error or another chance to make an error while they're making a data entry. So I think it's gonna make my quality control a lot easier on my end. It's gonna save them time in the office, and hopefully if we can take a day of data entry out of our week, we can be done that much quicker, because there are a lot of things that need to be done after that.
I know you said also that sometimes you're out, you might see something at a property next door, or a neighbor might ask a question, but you don't have those records available to you. Tell us how you're going to be able to use a tablet in all parts of our county.
Well, we can certainly have the entire map with at least the basic data of each parcel on it, on the system.
To have Wi-Fi or whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
they are hotspot and Wi-Fi capable. So if we do need to bring some data in when we're out in the field, that is a capability. That's definitely a possibility. But we can get enough information laid in there static on the tablets that we can know more than we would.
And so, yeah, you can input the data on the tablet.
Yes.
Even if you don't have
And then
service
hit the button
or
when
data.
you get back to the office.
That's
Right,
exactly
right.
right. When you get-
It'll save it all as a batch. You check the portions of that batch that are complete. It recognizes that and it loads it right into the database at that point.
And the last thing I would say about Jamie is we've talked about countywide software and how there's a committee meeting. Jamie has been a part of that and has I mean, you think about all the tech that the appraiser's office uses. Jamie's done a great job thus far on that, given great feedback. So that's definitely a project that I know his office is super excited about.
My goal on being on this committee is to make the interface between my office and Janet's office and the treasurer's office much more seamless. My main goal is I want our property identifiers to match their tax identifiers so that when we're trying to do our work, we all are speaking the same language, because we haven't spoken the same language since I first got here in 2010. So, but this will be a huge improvement if we can get that done, and it'll make Janet and Jody's workload a lot less.
Jamie, real estate values have been going through the roof. How do you fit that into your system? Is it over several years period of time, or?
Well, we use 3 years' worth of sales to determine the models. Yes, a bigger county is going to have a larger sample size. But if we take in 3 years, that gives me a large enough sample size that we're pretty valid in our views. What I'm seeing in the market right now is some of the lower priced homes, I'm seeing the price strength kind of moderate as opposed to where it's been in past years. The upper end of the market is still pretty strong, but we're not even into the we're only finishing up the second quarter of the year, and I don't know exactly where we'll be, because there's areas that are softening, and I don't know how much it'll soften through the rest of the year. But I can tell you the last 3 years, prices they've surprised me.
I talked to a realtor yesterday that said that somebody made an offer for $475 on a house that was listed at $425. It didn't appraise for that, but they paid the difference in cash just because there's nothing else available. I mean, but she feels like there's going to be a crash sometime, because it just can't, it's not sustainable, but
Well, there is always a correction. There's always a correction, and I got into this business because I came out of the last correction in 2009. So that's just a part of life. But I just don't know if it's this year. I don't know if this will be a correction. I don't know if we'll just power on through the year. It's difficult to say at this point.
Appreciate you sticking around and talking to us.
Well, yeah, thank you. Anytime.
Good to hear from you. Second item of business would be to consider replacing a boiler at the Adult Detention Center. Brandon Sands, our maintenance director, is here to walk us through a couple options.
Morning.
Morning.
So we bid this boiler project and had that bid opening a little while ago. The base bid for that project was just strictly to replace the boiler. and the water heater right next to it. The lowest bid for that was from BCI Mechanical for $62,986. They provided an alternate route if we so chose. This alternate route would be installing two smaller boilers. This would give us some redundancy, so in the event that we had the boiler or a boiler go down in the middle of the winter, we're not without heat in the jail. So there's a lot of value in that. This alternate also included go ahead and putting the controls, the digital controls on that, so we can monitor everything and be notified if there's a problem.
Would this replace those air controls that we have so much trouble with?
So this is the start of that.
Okay.
This is getting the brains of that put in place. From here, we can start building out and we can start getting the pneumatic control out of there. So this is definitely the start for that. The amount for this alternate bid is $87,474. And just to help kind of put that number into perspective as well, I believe you all got the bid sheet for that, for the bid opening that we had. That number is, for their alternate installing two boilers and controls, is still lower than the next lowest bid for just replacing the boiler and water heaters. So I still think we're getting a good deal on that, but just whichever direction that you all would like to go.
So there could be a chance that if just one went down, you would only have to replace one and not both of them at the same time?
Yeah, so that's correct. Yeah, if we had a total failure on one, yes, we would only need to replace the one. And we would still be able to heat, obviously, with the other one that's still in place.
Is this about what you're expecting them to come in at?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, this is about what we were looking at, yep.
Which is where we house inmates, so if it was cold and we had no heat at all, we would be looking at some expensive options, either
Right.
relocating them or
Yes.
emergency heat. And also, kind of the same logic we used when we did some other HVAC work in this building, is that if they went down, we would have to move all of our inmates somewhere else, or
Yep.
some expensive emergency. But in a redundant system like this, we could almost, at the end of its life, not have to preemptively replace it. We could wait till one of these units went down, replace it, knowing we had a spare
Correct, yes.
to get us by, so we wouldn't, at the end of its service life, have to be as worried about a failure.
Absolutely.
Good benefit in that. Any other discussion or thoughts, one way or the other, on the two options?
It sounds like you did a thorough deal of it, and it's kind of a funny situation till you explain it, the advantages of it, why, so once you explain the advantage of it, it makes a lot more economical sense, I guess. Have we we have on the deal, we either go with the alternate or the,
Yep, you have a choice between the single unit for $62,986 or the redundant, the two smaller units for the $87,474. And someone would need to make a motion one way or the other, or unless there's any more opinions.
and your statement was that price, I didn't pull that up, that price is even lower than the next bid was on the one boiler system.
Correct, yes.
I make a motion to go with the two boiler system.
All right.
I will second it.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes?
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. All right, our next item is a rezoning application. Morning, Larry.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As you've indicated, this is a request to rezone approximately 5 acres from the A1 to the AE Residential Estate Zoning District. This matter was considered by the Planning Commission at their hearing in March, and they have forwarded a recommendation to you for the approval of this rezoning, and have directed staff to forward that along with the staff report and the information that had been provided to them as they went through their hearing process. Again, we find that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, does satisfy all of our requirements of the zoning and subdivision regulations, and therefore we would ask that you take the specific action to approve the Planning Commission's recommendation, adopt a resolution approving the rezoning and directing staff to modify our zoning map accordingly.
Alrighty. Pretty routine land split. Is there any questions for Larry? Anyone like to make a motion to approve rezoning application 2102-1837?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre,
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer.
Yes. Thanks, Larry. Get that to you.
Thank you.
All right. Our fourth item of business will be to consider participating in the Rural Opportunities Zone Student Loan Repayment Program. Paul Bean, our Economic Development Director, is here today. Morning, Paul.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have an opportunity to put another tool in our toolbox as far as workforce recruitment. The state of Kansas has had a Rural Opportunity Zone program for quite a while, but they recently expanded it to more counties based on population, and Franklin County qualifies now to participate in the Rural Opportunity Zone. What this program does is helps us attract new workers to the county, and those folks that participate in this program, they have to move from outside the county and move into the county, and then they need to be working in the county, and then they can apply for aid to pay against the student loan debt that they have for their degree. So to do that, they would apply through the state. They've got to prove where they used to live, prove where they now live, and prove where they're working. And they have to show their degree has been completed. And then what can happen is they can get up to $1,500 from the sponsoring. Then that can be the county or a city or a company in the county. And then the state will match that. So up to $3,000 per year. And they can do that for 5 years. So it's a way to attract talented workforce to the county and bring them in here and help them with their student debt. After they've lived here a year, a tax year, they can also then apply to the state for some tax credits. So it can really be a nice incentive for us to recruit workforce, which, as you've heard me say, is our #1 challenge for our county. Currently, none of the adjacent counties participate in this program. I suspect Miami and Anderson and Osage will, because they're now eligible for the program. Douglas is too large and Johnson's too large, so we might have some opportunities, all of us down here in the more rural area, to attract some workforce out of the city with a program like this, because they can't offer it. So the opportunities for the commission today, there's 2 paths you can take. You can say, we want Franklin County to participate in this program, but we're not going to put any funding behind it. And what that does is allows the cities in the county, the employers in the county, and the foundations in the county to participate in the program. And by participating in the program, I mean they commit certain amount of money to folks that would be eligible that would meet those criteria. So for example, if the city of Ottawa did it, anybody that moved to the 66067 area code, and that's how they define city, would then be eligible through a program if the city decided to offer. Same thing in Wellsville and any other community. Also, the employers can set aside money themselves and utilize that match and use that as a recruitment tool. The other option before you is the county can also fund something, and it can be about any amount. Again, the maximum that a particular applicant can receive is $1,500 a year. Depending on their student loan debt, it might be less, but it will never be more than that.
You said 1,500 or 3,000?
1,500 from the county, and then the state would match it for 1,500. So that's where we get to leverage our money for state funding to help attract workforce to the county. And so I've been visiting with Derek and recommend or ask that the county consider funding this for $6,000.
Yeah, and that's, you could choose to fund as many of these as you wanted. I feel like it would help Paul and it would set a good example if the county not only approved participating in the program, but also funded it. Because that gives Paul leverage to go to the cities, to go to the employers and say, not only did Franklin County pass this resolution, they also put in $6,000. Now, what are you willing to put in? It just gets the ball rolling. $6,000 would be four of these, basically, 4 sponsorships. Will we use that? It's really hard to say. What happens, so let's say we budget the 6,000 and they don't get used. What happens in that scenario?
The way this process works is we would receive an invoice approximately, I think, in August, if I understand it right. Janet knows about this much better on the financial side than I do, but we would receive an invoice. The county would pay the money into that. If those funds are not qualified for, then we get a rebate back to the county. Say if somebody qualifies and they move to the county and they meet all the criteria and they apply and they get their funding, and then next year they don't work or they leave the county, then they're no longer eligible, so they drop off. So, but if they stay and they continue to work, which is what we hope, then the county would be required to pay another $1,500 to that applicant. So your number would never go above the 6, and I think you probably have to authorize it every year. Is that right, Janet?
I believe the information that I got, and from what, I think Paul watched the webinar that I watched on Monday also, that if you fund it for $6,000 this year, you could ultimately decide, we don't want to fund this project anymore next year, but anyone who got into the program this year, even though you didn't authorize any money next year, if you had one participant in the program, you have to see that participant all the way through. So even if you decide to fund it this year and you don't fund it next year, then we still have to see that applicant all the way through, which would be $1,500 a year for up to 5 years. Like Paul said, anytime they leave the county or leave their employment where they're at, and they don't qualify anymore, then you guys are no longer obligated to continue paying that. So you could pay it for 1 year on an applicant, you could pay for it for 5, anywhere in between there. But yeah, you would reapprove a resolution every single year and determine that year what we're going to fund.
Could teachers use the program?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody?
See, they're alone.
Yeah.
Gobbling up 4.
Yeah.
As a first-year teacher.
Oh,
But hopefully
It
we,
comes from somewhere else.
but hopefully we could get the school districts to jump on board and partner too.
right.
So,
Exactly.
maybe they offer 1 or 2, per school district to get some qualified teachers, and they would support those people that are coming in where, we can support the other people.
Yeah, not a comment against it, just that.
Yeah.
I think
Yep.
we could pretty well bet on that money being used.
Well,
That was my question. So if you get money from the city, you get money from us, so how do they decide whose money is going to be used for this person?
right. The first qualifier would be, say, somebody in the city of Ottawa, and say Ottawa's funding a program, the city of Ottawa. The first step is, are they in the 66067 area or zip code, and does that entity still have funding available? If it does, they go there. If the city's already awarded the money, say if the city participated, then the next step would be the county. So they'd look to see if the county had funding still available. And so if it's an industry, it starts with the industry. If they still, or if a school district, they would start there. Then if they live in Ottawa, they'd go to that level. And if they don't have money, then it comes. So the county's kind of the last, unless they're living out in the
Each entity,
county.
you're going to go to all the school districts, or are you going to?
I'm gonna go
How do you-
about anywhere I can,
Yeah.
because I think, again, it's a great way to leverage funds to get workforce here, and these are college-educated, young, is probably what you're targeting, and that'd be great for our community.
You could also have a sponsoring company.
Right.
So say, you know, American Eagle or Astro Truck Covers, you know, had, you know, someone that they really wanted to, by us subscribing to this program, then they can throw their money behind that person and their $1,500 then gets them $3,000, you know, so for that applicant each year, so they can attract them and keep them here.
So can they do it on a individual basis, like this person, okay, we're gonna do this one, yeah, this one, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So they don't have to commit, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'd be a great recruitment tool. So I'm hoping that industry and school districts, and I think it could even help the county in some instances. If there's a, you know, an employee opening and you want to bring somebody into the county, they, you know, if they meet those qualifications, they would qualify for that benefit.
If
And
they're older and they don't have any school loans anymore, it's not gonna be so much anything.
not the target audience for this particular
Yeah,
program.
for this program.
That's right, that's
Probably an
right.
obvious question, but I'm gonna say it out loud. Zip codes for different cities across the county lines, we're not obligated to pay for anybody in Osage County just because they
Correct.
have a promoted.
This is authorizing a residency within Franklin County. That's exactly right.
And our recommendation is, it's flexible. I mean, you could sponsor 3 of these, you could sponsor 5 of these. What we are trying to balance is, this isn't the county's sole responsibility. We just want to give momentum to the program, and we feel like somewhere in that 3 to 5 range, so 4,500 to 7,500 is what we feel like for this year is a responsible amount. And if this thing explodes, then we can come back next year and then we'll know what the other entities are doing. We'll have more perspective and we could go up or down based on that. We just feel like this is a pretty responsible starting point somewhere in that range, so.
See the logic to it not starting too high, because if those spots are taken, you have a legacy, a 5-year commitment to those.
Yeah, and that's important. And I think that's very important for you all to know, is if somebody signs up, you're committing to that funding for 5 years. And so if you did the 6, you're not going to ever have to do more than 6, but you could be required to do 6 for 5 years. So I think that's important to understand. And, you know, I'm going to be in Wellsville tonight, so if you pass this, then Wellsville's going to be the first one to be challenged to participate. And if you're listening, I'm coming.
That's why I went in and sat down and talked to him this morning, because I wanted to know more. And that's why I haven't asked any questions, because I feel pretty comfortable with it after I sat down with him for 15 minutes and asked basically the same things everybody at this table's asked, so. And I think I've always been in favor of economic development, and this is, we got somebody here that's trying to move us forward to economic development. We got a big piece of property out here that somebody moving in may be looking at, boy, you guys are pretty progressive about, you know, promoting and bringing in outside. That's our big problem right now, is bringing in the outside talent, so.
That's the challenge for existing, quite honestly, friends. We could grow our workforce with our existing industry if we could have more workforce, because they're letting bids go because they can't find the work to meet the demand. So we could grow with our current industry if we had workforce.
Paul, what about Franklin County kids who go off to college? They can't participate in this, come back and,
If they declare a residency somewhere else and then come back, they can. Yeah. But they have to show permanent residency in another county before they can come back.
They can't show just a dorm address or a short-term lease at an apartment, like a 6 or 9 month lease. They have to be in a long-term lease somewhere. They have to have moved their voter registration. They have to have done all of these things to show that they had intent to stay there in that community. And then they could come back and they could qualify for this.
Just need two different actions?
No, you could just make a motion to approve the resolution, including, you know,
The amount?
the amount, whatever that is. You could do it in one motion.
We have 6,000 thrown out as an amount, and we've discussed maybe go a little more than that. Any thoughts, something? I think it's a good program. I'd love to see it get off to a good start.
Questions? I'd like to make a motion to move forward with a $6,000 amount.
You're good with the 6,000?
I wouldn't mind going 7,500, but he already has the motion on the 6.
Do you want to pull your motion so we can discuss them out a
The
little
reason I
more?
did, that's kind of what Paul's recommendation to me was, so that's the only reason I went with the 6, so.
I'm okay if you want to go higher.
Huh?
If you want to pull your motion
Yeah,
back for a
I
second,
back off, make
we
it
can discuss
75.
okay, all
We'll
right.
find out how many people's happy with that now.
So 7,500 is your motion? Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right, then. Is everyone okay with that? Thoughts?
I'd just like to see some sort of incentive for our local kids to stay here.
Well, yeah, we're working on some other programs on that, but I agree, Roy. We want to bring our local kids back. We're working on building some pipelines directly out of our school districts into the workforce, working closely with Dr. Cobbs and his folks and reaching out to the other districts. I do not disagree with your sentiment whatsoever, Roy. This is just one tool in the toolbox.
All right, well, we have
We
a
have a
motion.
motion on the floor for 7,500. I'll second it.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
I guess you might as well hang around for this next one. It's the application for the CDBG funds. Looks probably our last one.
Yeah. As you recall, we received $132,000 in CDBG COVID relief grant funds to award within the county outside of the city limits of Ottawa. 6,600 of that was going to our consultants that we work with that also do all the paperwork filing with the state and a lot of the back office work. So the remainder of that has gone into our businesses here in the county, with the exception of about $2,600 is what's left in that whole balance. And so I've been working diligently, our deadline is coming up here in June, and I don't want to send any of this back to Topeka unless we have to. So we have Anderson Tire, which is located just north of town outside the city limits, has applied for CDBG grant funding. They've submitted expenses over $6,000, so they've met that dollar threshold. They have met the LMI requirements with one exception, and this is a conditional request. We are waiting for one more of those documents, the one from the owner of the company, to make sure that they qualify 100% under the low to moderate income threshold. If they do, then the consultant has approved this subject to that receipt. I talked to the folks out at Anderson Tire this morning, and I believe I have that document in my inbox waiting for me when I get back. I will send that to the consultant. Hopefully we'll have approval on this formally today. But I'm going to be on vacation next week, and we're kind of getting up against that deadline. So that's the reason I'm here today, to ask you for a conditional approval for this grant request for $2,646.74. I will come back to you in 2 weeks and report to you if we were able to formally approve it or not. And really what that means is if we're able to approve it, we gave away all the money, and if we didn't, we had to give back $2,600 and some change to the state. I'm very hopeful we don't have to do that, and it's been a great program. I appreciate you letting us utilize these funds. It's been a great aid to many of our businesses in the community. So today I'm seeking your permission, a conditional approval for a grant to American Tire in the amount of $2,646.74. And happy to answer any questions.
Anderson Tire.
Yeah, I said title, didn't I? I'm sorry. Tire.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Next item would be to consider purchasing salt, the road salt. Go ahead.
Yes, Commissioners, this is every year we participate with Douglas County. Douglas County holds they assemble 7 different entities and send out a salt bid, and we would like to participate in that again this year. The bids came back at $52.61 a ton, which is actually a little bit lower than in years past, which might be the only item that we purchase all year that's lower than what we've historically done. So we would recommend going ahead with the bid in the amount of $63,132.
Is this more than we did last year?
It's a little bit more.
I didn't know if that had any, I see only influences the amount
Yeah,
purchased, I didn't know.
I can't, in kind of looking at this, I haven't seen any significant price shifts. It's been pretty even, but it's a little bit less
Do
this year.
we still have any entities that purchase from us?
Yeah, we work with all the smaller communities. When they run out of salt, they'll come to us and we sell it to them at cost.
That's what I want, thank you.
And then we also work with the city of Ottawa the same way.
Right, so a little more quantity at a lower rate this year. Anyone would like to make a motion to approve purchasing the salt from Hutchison Salt Company in the amount of $62,132?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Commissioner Dickinson? Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. Seventh item would be to solicit a statement of qualifications from design consultants for widening Old 50.
Commissioners, this is the next step in the process. I think it was on the 17th, we discussed a whole laundry list of potential projects with the widening of Old 50 being the primary project that we would like to move forward with. This is the first step in that process. We would like to get a design consultant on board, and I would like to go out and solicit statements of qualifications from firms that we would then, I would have an internal committee that would review those statements of qualifications, rank them, and if there was one firm that kind of stood out above the others, we would want to enter into negotiations on a contract with them to perform those services, where we would work through the scope of services and those sorts of things, along with fees. Once that we're prepared, we would bring that back before you to talk about it in depth and seek your approval to move forward with that design. And so I've written the statement of qualifications, the notice to the design consultants that I would like to send out later today if this is approved.
And David did a good job of explaining that, but obviously this does not bind us to anything. We may start negotiations with a firm, but we will not enter into any agreements. That will all be done by the five of you. So this is just the first step in getting the ball rolling.
All right. Questions? Then let me look at the, who would like to make a motion soliciting a statement of qualifications from design consultants for the widening of Old 50 Highway?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. Item 8 is for the purchase of culverts for the Public Works Department. They were competitively bid tabulations attached. Wellborn Sales was the lowest responsible bid, $29,506.90. Any questions? Anyone like to make a motion to approve purchasing the culverts?
So move.
For a second?
I'll go ahead. I just got one question. What have you found, David, on price over,
Well,
the talk was,
yep, the prices from 2020 to now, these prices that we're looking at today have almost doubled in price for these three select sizes of pipe. And so it is much more expensive for the 15-inch pipe. In 2020, whenever we purchased, we were getting it for $12.15 a foot. Today, it's $23.45 a foot.
Well, doubled in the last 10 years or
No, in the last year.
last,
Yeah, yeah.
time to buy.
And so we have just a little bit more information. Through the 1st of May, we have used 48 of the pipes that we had on hand. That's crossroad tubes, that's entrances, which there's been almost 30 entrances that we've installed so far this year, and seems like we're getting requests for new entrances on a weekly basis. And then we've also sold 9 other culverts to citizens for their use. And so we do have, the purposes of this is to make sure that we have pipe on hand so that we can quickly and easily take care of the requests that we get. I have started the research on the plastic, the HDPE type of pipe. I've got quite a bit of information that I've assembled, but I'm not ready yet to make a recommendation. That will be coming in the next month or so as I formulate some information for all of you to consider. So, but that is in the works. But today we're stuck with these higher prices.
Sounds like you put 48 down, we're replacing 34, just kind of keeping a minimum stock on hand for meet our needs, but prices are high and we're not loading ourselves up. So we have a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Yeah, I think we already have motion and a second on the, yep.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Ninth item is consider holding a public hearing. We'll be consider vacating Hamilton Terrace for a mile between Tennessee Road and Texas Road.
Yes, Commissioners, a few weeks ago, one of the landowners along this stretch of road came in and asked about the process. We kind of went over it. They expressed some concerns with people utilizing that mile of road that don't really have any purpose of being there. When it gets wet, people like to get out and play and that sort of thing. And so it tears up these roads. And then they also get off of the right-of-way into fields and that sort of thing. And so the landowners along this adjacent road have all come together, and they would like to close the road and vacate the right-of-way. Very similar to a couple of other actions that we've had the last few years. And this is the first step in that process. We need to publish some things in the paper and then also have a public hearing. And so what we would like to do is hold a public hearing on June 9th, if you all are in agreement.
And to be clear, we're not debating the merits of this today. That will be at the public hearing when we hear from the public. Today, we just want permission to post that notice in the paper and set the hearing up.
Just gauging whether there's public interest.
Absolutely.
And all the landowners that have land along that right of way have requested we do so. So I would certainly say there's interest in this item. So would anyone like to make a motion to hold the public hearing to consider vacating this portion of road?
I'll make a motion to have the public hearing.
Second?
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. That brings us to staff reports. Derek.
A couple of quick things. And if she chooses, Janet can tell you more, but we did get the first half of our stimulus funds this week, so it is in our account, as I've said for weeks now. I would encourage the board to take our time with this. We've got years I think after we get through the budget, we will be able to really turn our attention to this. It's not to say we haven't been brainstorming ideas at the staff level or that the 5 of you shouldn't be brainstorming ideas, but I would look for those discussions to really ramp up here in a few months. But kudos to Janet for doing all of the procedural work, and make no mistake, there is a lot of red tape and procedural work when it comes to these funds. But she single-handedly did that, and we now have our first half of it, so. And then I've asked Brandon to give an update, a comprehensive maintenance update, but I do want to give him a shout out. If you haven't been downtown by the courthouse, we maintain the corner of 4th and Main, and it looks fantastic. That lawn right now, the paint on the courthouse, the corner, especially from that vantage point, kind of looking at the memorial with the courthouse in the backdrop, is just beautiful. And in fact, I think Casey's going to talk to you about John Gladman's photos, but we have asked him to go try and capture that right now so that we can use it on our website, because it's pretty stunning. It's not burned off yet, obviously, so, and that's all I have, Cole, so thank you.
Casey?
So I will just go along with Derek. John did your picture last week, and we got that back Monday, and it looks fantastic. So I'll get it framed, get a plate like the rest of them have, and we'll get it ready for the wall. But like he said, I've also talked to John about getting some pictures throughout the county of different things. The courthouse is one of the requests, but for our website, good high-resolution photos that kind of show everything and not just the city of Ottawa. All of our communities. So I do have a quick update about vaccines, just that the state of Kansas is reporting that Franklin County has given 9,928 first doses. So that's a little bit behind what we said, but by those numbers, they say that we have administered 48% of those eligible to get the vaccine. So anyone over the age of 16. So I know that there's a little lag in their total numbers, but they're saying we have vaccinated about 48% of our population that's able to get the vaccine. So
I feel like the CDC has recently said that 50% of eligible Americans have now received the vaccine. So that would put us pretty close to the national average, which we'd all like to see it higher, but I think we're in a respectable tier there, so.
And then my only other thing is just a reminder that the Visitor Center is reopening tomorrow for the holiday weekend. So we'll start our hours Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Mondays going forward. And that's from 10 to 5, and then on Saturdays it's 9 to 4. So, any questions?
Will you email the 5 of them their picture just so they can see it in advance?
Yep, absolutely.
Sheriff, did you?
Commissioners.
Morning.
I want to start by saying thank you to Brandon and to the board for taking care of the facilities down there at the jail. That boiler system is, Brandon can probably attest to, and Derek's very aware of. It causes a lot of issues, not just from a facility perspective, but also from an operations perspective with complaints from inmates and how they react when they're less than comfortable. So I appreciate that you guys taking care of that facility. Along those same lines, as of this morning, we do have 80 inmates. Obviously, we don't have room for 80, so we do have 10 that are farmed out or furloughed. We're still not operating like normal in there because we're still doing our quarantining, and so our cells that we're utilizing everything, but they're just not being utilized back to normal yet. But those are things that we're just still working with the health department to get those things done. And then also along those lines, I just wanted to give kudos to the Health Department's COVID team with the way that they have been working with us. When we have to send someone to prison, they have to have a negative COVID test within a time frame before they go. And just this last week, some of those people that we're going to be shipping off were out of county, and the health departments allowed us to take one of their people down to Anderson County to do those tests down there to get that done. That was a whole lot easier than us bringing people back for the test and then having to ship them back and forth a lot. So we just appreciate working with them as well. Tonight, the Kansas law enforcement is having our Valor Awards banquet down in Wichita, and our office is receiving a unit award down there, and that is in large part due to, if you remember, right before Christmas time, the actions that the guys took to getting a van and the fundraising and things that we did, and so that led to that's the main reason that we were receiving that unit award down there. So we'll be down in Wichita tonight for that, and then we also Lieutenant Lasswell, as well as our foundation board of directors, will be presenting our final Sam Smith Scholarship tonight for this year, and that'll be at Ottawa High School. It's kind of a neat deal that one of our county employees, it's his son who was going to be receiving that. So Aaron Campbell will be our recipient tonight. So, and Pat works over Public Works. So that's all I have this morning. If you guys have questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
All right. Well, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Paul, was there anything you weren't able to cover you want to update us on? All right, Brandon?
Hey, Brandon, do you want this?
I think I've got some notes here. Yeah, so just a few quick updates for you. We have the bid opening coming up for the lighting project in this building. If you recall, that's going to be all the lighting in the main hallways and the restrooms, switching those to LED. That bid opening is scheduled for the 10th. So we're looking forward to getting those numbers in, getting that project going. Also an update on the District Court HVAC project. That's coming along pretty well. The weather has been pretty nice to us since they started that project, so we haven't had too many complaints with it getting too hot or too cold over there. As of Monday, all of the units are cooling over there, and they're just kind of wrapping up a few loose ends right now, running some piping for the heating and stuff like that. So that project should be wrapping up in a few weeks. We've talked about restriping the annex parking lot. Obviously, with all the rain that we've had, that's been a little challenging. So we're working on scheduling with that, just waiting for a dry period to get out there and get to work on it. The painting of the courthouse is another big one that will be coming up in the summer that you all approved a while back. Trying to get scheduling for that one is also dependent on rain. The lift that they need to get in there is going to be a lot larger than the ones that they used for the lower part of the building. So we're waiting for the ground to be nice and dry, very, very dry, before we even attempt to get that lift on the lawn so they can take care of that work. So right now, we're looking at July timeframe, but again, kind of depends on how long the rains last and if we need to push it out further than that. We're also looking at flooring options for this hallway out here in the annex. When we get a few of those put together and make some decisions, we'll be closer to putting that one out to bid as well, and getting that project rolling as well.
And Brandon, are you gravitating towards hard flooring options?
We are, yeah. That's going to make things a lot easier for us as far as cleanup is concerned. The carpet obviously just holds a lot of dirt and doesn't look very good pretty quickly. So the hard floor would be a much better option as far as cleaning and durability is concerned. So that's kind of where we're headed with that. The blinds for the courthouse, we talked about that about a month or so ago. We're just about wrapped up with getting all of those installed. I think we had 50-something blinds that we ordered. In fact, I think they're putting up the last few this morning. They were working on it when I came over here. So that should be done really soon, and it's looking really good. Lastly, we had a new hire. His name is Chris, as a custodian. This is his third week, I think. Chris is doing a great job. We're happy to have him on the team. Since he started, we moved him and another custodian to working an evening shift, which has been a huge game changer for as far as the cleaning is concerned. Gives them a lot more time to work without bumping into people or trying to worry about making too much noise or anything. So that's been a great help having that, having Chris on and being able to move to that shift. So overall, things are looking really great for the maintenance department, and we're moving along with a lot of exciting projects. And we still do have one more custodial position open. So if there's anyone out there that's interested in working as a custodian, please apply. We got one more to go. So that's all I've got.
Thanks a lot. David Lee.
All right, so last week, due to the floods, we had a couple of our bridge structures develop some issues. So we had our bridge engineer with Cook, Flat, and Strobel come down and look over them with us. We were able to take care of one of the issues. We've got a bridge on Arkansas Road just south of Labette, which is over kind of south and west of Pomona, down in a kind of a low area. We had a log, well, ended up being a log jam that was diverting water to the edge of the south edge of the bridge, and it caused some washing and some undermining on the south of the abutment. And we were able to, we had to close the road for just less than 24 hours, but we were able to put material down into that hole and compact it and get the road back opened. We'll monitor that situation. If our fix doesn't hold up over time, we'll have to go to more extreme measures. We'll have to use concrete to fill that void, but we feel pretty confident that we're going to be okay for a while. The other and more significant problem is on a bridge just north of Imes, right by the Flint Hills Nature Trail. That bridge is, well, that whole area, kind of in the Peoria bottoms, it looked like a lake last week. So there was a lot of water that kind of just sits there. And this particular bridge, we went across it with our motor grader he was going to evaluate the roads to the north, and he felt the bridge settle a little bit. And so he got off of it, notified us, and we were able to get out there. It doesn't appear that particular bridge has piers under it. And so whenever you get heavy rains like that, the soil is saturated. It caused it to settle a little bit. What we're going to do is once things dry out a little bit, we will get in there and excavate around the south abutment and the north abutment eventually. But we will pour a more substantial abutment in there to shore that up. And if we don't have long-term success with that, the next option is to drive piers at the end of the bridge and attach those piers to the bridge. That's a much more elaborate and costly fix than just adding the concrete. So we've notified some of the big farmers in that area to let them know to stay off of that. We've also reduced the weight limit on that bridge. It was like 14 tons. We've reduced it down to 5 tons, which will allow vehicular traffic. We think that cars and pickups and those sorts of things can get across there just fine without causing further damage. But the larger semi-trucks and heavy equipment like that really need to stay off of it until we get this addressed. So we've posted it and tried to give some warning to some folks that would be utilizing that. But we will, as time permits and weather conditions permit, we'll get in there and start working on that. Otherwise, we've had multiple crews and all of our blade operators out repairing washouts and our ditches and our roads. It's going to take us several more weeks before we kind of get things back to an acceptable level. And right now, with Memorial Day coming up, we are working hard to get all the roads kind of leading to the cemeteries around the county, getting those mowed out. Obviously, the weather has hindered our ability to do that, but we are working to make that happen. So that's what we've got going on.
How much rain are we supposed to get tomorrow? Sorry.
You know, every time I watch the weather, I get depressed, so I have not, I know the weather is a definite possibility, and I know that we're under a flood watch or flood warning,
Yeah, I
so
saw that.
that doesn't sound positive to me.
All right, go down to the magazine. Flood watching's a big pastime, so.
Yeah. Okay, Commissioners, on Monday, I sent you guys out an email with some information regarding a KAC class that's being offered for commissioners regarding Senate Bill 13. So if you're interested in that, you guys can just use the link on that to learn more about Senate Bill 13. As you know, we've been talking about it a lot, and I've been trying to absorb as much information about it as possible because some of the things start this year, some of the things start next year. So just understanding completely what our obligations are as a county for our budget. And then also on a smaller level, I help all of the other smaller districts like cemetery districts and townships do their budget. So understanding what it means for them also is really important. So along that same line, Betsy and I attended a virtual class yesterday on budgeting with municipal services. So we'd be prepared to do all those smaller budgets. And likewise, the county budget, which is a lot larger than those. So again, understanding Senate Bill 13 and how that works with our budget as it is and what all we need to do. Jamie has turned over the tax rolls to me, so yay that. So I'm working on getting those brought in. I did bring all of the real property values, so I'll be working with Linda either yet this week or early next week to bring in all the personal property. That always tends to be a little more challenging than bringing in Jamie's file, as Jamie discussed with you along the lines of the software project. If we could all get on the same platform, it would be great. And there are struggles with both bringing in personal property and bringing in real property. Luckily, Jamie's department and my department worked really hard this year, and we had very minimal problems bringing in the real property this year. So fingers crossed we're going to do the same for personal property. I have to have those valuations out to other counties by June 5th so that other counties can get everything ready, because we have to ultimately go to the taxing entities by June 15th. So we will have those June values ready by the 15th. Rodney wrapped up his in-office audit work yesterday. He's wrapping up some things at home. I'm sure that I'll be in contact with him the rest of this week, and then he's hoping to meet with Derek and I sometime next week, so he can just go over some different things with the budget. He said told me yesterday that we were not over budget in any fund. So yay that. So we're doing a good job paying attention to that. I got to give a lot of kudos to the department heads, because I do have them watch that at the end of the year and let me know. I do work closely with a couple departments just because their budgets are a little more challenging, like EMS and solid waste, when it comes to making sure that their revenues have not thrown off everything else in their budget. But the other department heads really watch their budgets, and that's really great. Like Derek said, we did get the stimulus money. I did visit with Rodney about that to make sure that from an audit standpoint, we're doing everything that we can and we should. Regarding the first round stimulus funds, Rodney was glad that we had everything organized and ready for him. So he was able just to download all of our files off of a Dropbox and has those all so he can review those, so he can do our single audit. Because as you'll remember, we have an additional audit requirement this year because we received so many funds from the federal government last year. So for now, we have those funds in a non-interest bearing account, although we're waiting on guidance from the interim final rule to see if we can put those in an interest-bearing account, since we're going to be holding them potentially for up to 4 years. So they could be drawing interest while we're, getting our plan set and getting ready to move forward with those projects. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. And if we can move those over to interest-bearing accounts, we definitely will. But for the first round, they said we were not able to put it in interest-bearing accounts because we would have to we would have to keep track of how much interest, and then we would have to pay that back to the federal government. It's a lot of reporting that wasn't necessary. So we just set up a separate non-interest-bearing account. Something that a lot of my peers have been focusing on, and I know that it's been mentioned in different online conferences that I've been to regarding the stimulus funds, is keeping those funds separate. And I just wanted to assure you guys that we've set up a separate fund for those. So we're running those through a completely separate fund. They're in a completely separate bank account, so we can keep everything really clean on that. So, and we'll be canvassing the 289 election immediately following this meeting. So we have that all ready to go for you.
All right.
We're gonna do that here, Janet.
Yep, right here. Betsy brought all the stuff. We'll be ready to go.
Okay. Let's go to commissioners' comments. Commissioner Stottlemyre.
No, nothing. First time.
Commissioner Harris.
Nothing.
Dickinson.
The only thing I have is the City of Ottawa had their study session on Monday, and just a couple of things that stood out. They're going to have their first land bank meeting on June 2nd, which is the starting process. All of those parcels from the coves is a part of that, so it's the first process to get those back on the market. They've got all the specials removed. The ones that were keeping them from getting sold. So anyway, that's just their first process. And the other thing is Blake Jorgensen is not running for re-election this year. So if anybody wants to represent the city, this would be a good time to, I think you have to file by June 2nd.
No, June 1st at noon.
June 1st at noon.
That's Tuesday, so Monday's a holiday, so.
Anyway, so if you want to represent, then this would be a good time to do that. And that's it.
All right. Roy?
I just want to thank Brandon Sands for the work he does down there by the memorial in that corner. Monday is Memorial Day, and there's going to be a memorial service at 10 a.m. Monday morning, hosted by the American Legion. And I think Anderson County is dedicating a Veterans Memorial down there. And I don't know if it's on the Courthouse Square or somewhere else, but I just heard that on the news. So anyway, that's all I have.
All right. I don't have anything to add. So with that, we look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? No? Aye? Aye? Any opposed? We're adjourned.
If you can